Hey, welcome back. Welcome.
You do realize you are under oath.
I do.
We knew Sarah would not be able to limit herself to 5 pages, 5 measly pages. So there's 9, and you know I have them all. Are you ready for round 2? Let's get this party started. Dumplings to Go said, Sarah keeps saying she wants those heirlooms for her son, yet they are with her son, currentistically, and she's having a conniption fit. We can always depend on Sarah to be consistently inconsistent. Nonetheless, where's Judge Jackson? I was on the line talking to Suma and I wanted to click you guys in. Hold on, let's get this party started. Suma, what were you saying?
I said, I have thought about this a lot because while Sarah seems to have a lot of go-tos, she technically adheres to almost nothing. She's generally consistent, as you say, with what I think of as her ish factor. It was 6 o'clock-ish, she had 2-ish drinks, etc. She likes to emphasize in threes, repeat one word or phrase 3 times. And will change even her previously repeated adamant statement at the drop of a dime if she feels it's a better argument or excuse in a desperate moment. She's so hard to figure out just as a fellow human being. Forget her hair. I mean, we're just that. How do you have the hair like a baby duck that somehow also looks like a helmet?
It could be the blood sugar. Somebody needs to call Brian.
So, I'm taking a crack at it. Let's see. 1. Simply state, with conviction, how superior you are, as I just said. At everything in every way. Or a phrase within the statement must be repeated 3 times to make your point. His family has always thought that I was going to kill him. They have always thought that.
They're going to think I killed him.
Why would they think that?
They always have said that. They've always have said that.
They have always said that. Now, what this does, I don't think this is, first of all, let's just talk about that for a second. As if the Torres family had such a wildly incorrect idea there. I mean, and I've said this before, but the last thing that I'm going to say, if there's a dead body in my apartment and I call the police because of the dead body and the detectives show up, the last thing I'm saying to them is that his family always said I would do this.
Right. They call me the blue-eyed white dragon.
She not only insists that she holds no blame for anything that has been mentioned in this trial or her criminal trial, but feels that it's prudent to place the blame squarely on Brian. And in doing so, the judge and everyone else will see how her failure to be a parent years ago, including her, in quotes, drinking problem,
Girl,
is not her fault, but is in fact the fault of Brian Boone. Yet she's the one incarcerated. Make it make sense. I submit that Sarah will not make the deadline for her closing arguments. She may try to submit something at some point, but I think that from now on, she really is just going to try to appeal to the public at large, because the judges, they don't get it, and everything is stacked against her. And even though she hates the YouTubers with their bloody keyboard and all the money they're making off of her, that's the public she's basically appealing to. This is just making her feel better. She just, I've always felt that her letters to the judges, although extremely damaging to her, which she doesn't understand, of course, that's basically her diary. That's like her writing in her journal.
And in her journal, she's probably writing a list of medical snacks and delicious delights. She's trying to figure out what's what and how many in every way, shape, and form. Tanika and Hear Me Out are about to read a comment from Buzzman Jr. Let's go hang out over there for a bit. Let's give them a call and get them on the line.
crazy, which I knew it would be.
Yeah, totally.
That's why I was going.
Right.
Here's this next one for you.
As a little Debbie distributor in Louisiana, I can confirm there's no medicinal purpose for honey buns. Buzzman Jr. Oh my God, that's hilarious. For Sarah, there are. She, yeah. It's her, what is it? Her blood sugar? Is that how she says it? Her glucose? Okay.
Low blood sugar. And medical snacks. When she said medical snacks, I was like, ma'am.
But even if she needed them, right? Like maybe there's this mysterious disease that she said her grandfather had a unique form. Even if it is, how is it Brian's problem?
Right. It would be the jail. Like if this is something that can kill you, ma'am, I'm sure the jail will handle it.
Right.
And I'm sure you would be diagnosed with something.
Right.
By a doctor, not WebMD.
Wait, hold on, you guys. Do you remember on our last episode, we saw Dr. Harper? She was under Sarah's spell. She actually got on the stand and said that Sarah was the more responsible one over Brian. I think the word she used was parentified. I got a comment from one of you that explained the parentified a little more. Parentified, not meaning that Sarah was the more responsible one. Parentified as in Sarah looked at Brian as a child, that he couldn't do anything without her, couldn't make any decisions, that she had to be the parent, even though Brian in reality was the more responsible one. There's really no excuse for how she treated George or Brian currentistically. Without Brian, she'd stay in the negative.
Like, that brings me back to, I think that I don't remember who I asked. Somebody, but they disagreed. I said, I think she basically takes the Snickers hangry commercial and she uses that. She sees that, she's like, oh yeah, I'm hangry. Like she's using it to excuse all of her behavior, right? Like when she's in one of her yelling moods.
I'm sure I don't have like a cute little skull.
Yeah, I'm sure I have dents everywhere and like scars. I think when I'm trying to remember when I was a teenager, right? I spent a fair amount of time. You just want to do your own thing, right? Have your own space and that kind of thing. And I'm sure probably Brian has a normal level of, like, for instance, let's say, he has this girlfriend. Let's say a rule of no closed doors in the house, something like that, right? A very reasonable rule. And he complains to mom, like, oh, he makes me keep the door open, and he's always, we have to be in the living room whenever my girlfriend comes over. And so she's like, you know what? You should have your own space. And saying to Brian, he needs to have his own space, and saying to Lucas, you know what? If it was up to me, you would have your own wing of the house, right?
Right.
But yeah, none of her stuff, almost nothing.
Nothing makes sense. She excels at everything, being that she's an excellent mother. However, she doesn't know what she's doing. But I'm doing my best, Your Honor. My Sarah Boone disorder kicks in. It gets me frazzled. Currentistically, I have found peace. Peace in thoughts. Thoughts of Judge Jackson reading all the previous letters to Judge Wooten written by Sarah and the criminal case. Nonetheless, since my co-host has a PhD in Boonology, like the rest of us straight A students, Suma, what do you think Judge Jackson's next move should be?
The judge has to do some on-site research, as does Brian's lawyer, because, as a surprise to no one, the case laws that are listed are incomplete and or incorrect. I maintain that Sarah has little to no understanding of what exactly the point of case law is. And because Sarah is a true idiot to her core, she addressed her parental rights. She went on to cite case law that she thought was relevant to alimony. It was not. None of this complaining, already not good. that Brian is trying to make it sound like the calls from Sarah in prison to her son are expensive when they're only 13 cents a minute.
And what's hilarious is her logic is, you pressed 1 to accept the call, right? He's like, yeah, I had to. Yes or no? Yes or no? Her logic is, if he pushed 1 to accept the call, then he should just be responsible for all the calls. My question is, why doesn't she take the donations from all of her fans and just pay for her calls for her son?
This is stupid because Brian, who just explained to the judge that the calls add up to about $40 to $60 a week, is caring for her son in every way, including financially, and she is sitting in prison serving a life sentence for murder. This shows a total lack of appreciation for Brian and
delusion. Does it show delusion on her part? Sarah is so delusional. Let's head over to the interrogation room with Chelsea and Scott and do a little rewind on Sarah's delusion. All right, we have breaking news. Breaking news. There are more pages to Sarah's closing arguments that we didn't go through, and we have to talk about it now. Grab your medical snacks. Yesterday, we did a first time reaction, just an overview, and read through the closing. I'll tell you, the first thing I noticed is, even reading it, it didn't give me the Sarah feel. It did not feel like Sarah wrote the closing argument. When we got to the certificate of service, the handwriting, it didn't even look the same. Nonetheless, I will tell you that ChatGPT closing argument got my panties in a bunch. I was a little worried when I read what she was stating. One, Sarah stating that she is serving life in prison. That definitely doesn't sound like Sarah. She would have added on temporarily awaiting my successful appeal. We are still on docket watch for Judge Jackson's final decision. And I'll tell you, my perpetual blood sugar is through the roof. Sidebar, one of our new straight A students sent me a warm message about my health. Actually thought my blood sugar was high or low, and it's just a little Booneology we speak over here. So everything is fine with me. I'm just eating prescription honey buns, waiting for Judge Jackson's final motion. Kathy NJ, shout out to Kathy. Kathy says, Sarah is so crazy. I admire and appreciate your ability to do this for us. She is so toxic. It would be really hard for me. Nothing she says makes sense. Thank you. Kathy, I'll tell you. Yesterday, I was feeling a little down after reading the closing. Sarah didn't even mention Little Man. She didn't mention the visits that Brian graciously offered her. 1 per month, 12 visits per year. She didn't mention the phone calls that she made such a big deal about. It was all about finances. Roberta Real 7980. Hey Roberta. Roberta says, I saw a judge not in sympathy for Sarah, but not reacting physically with facial expressions or eye rolls. But when it came to her tone of voice, it was quite apparent she was getting exasperated with Sarah. Even when objected to and sustained by the judge, Sarah kept pushing through to get her little jabs at Brian. She uses the quote, "You can't unring a bell" theory, thinking she can plant a seed of bias in the judge's mind. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Your Honor. I'm doing my best. We're going to get into Sarah's proposed parenting plan and why she doesn't agree with Brian's parenting plan. Futuristically Fractious, I love that name, shout out to you, says she uses the Lambert case improperly. Let me grab my motivation in a cup. She uses the Lambert case improperly. The case actually reflects the concept that spousal support should help transition a dependent spouse towards self-sufficiency over time rather than providing indefinite support at a fixed amount. It instituted the idea of reduced alimony over time, and child support was only applicable because the petitioner had sole physical custody of the children or child. She does this frequently, cites a case, but completely warps the meaning of the cited case. Using Lambert as a case citation is actually in Brian's favor, as it establishes 1. Alimony is temporary and subject to reduction or termination in future court orders, and 2. That child support is owed to the parent retaining full custody of the child. Ugh. And there's an emoji face with the woman smacking her forehead, shaking my head. Respondent does not agree with the petitioner's amended parenting plan due to it not being in the best interest of the child. The respondent is avidly seeking to be included in her son's life in every aspect possible and in accordance with Florida law. Respondent, me, should not automatically have her inclusion as a parent to continue to raise, contact, and participate in his life removed, deterred, or reduced to incarceration. Location differences do not suffice exclusion, nor does one unfortunate event define her as a human being, a mother to her son. Sarah definitely didn't write this. Nonetheless, Sarah's whole argument is just because she's in prison doesn't mean she shouldn't be able to control Brian, his finances, and what happens with the little man. That's pretty much her argument. She's saying, from prison, I still want to be able to control what happens, run everything through me, and I'll give you a final decision. That's pretty much what she's saying. Even though I can't participate in anything socially, emotionally, physically, or financially, I still want control. Hunter v. Hunter states the court ruled that shared parental responsibility must be honored unless proven harmful to the child. Sidebar, this is the part that burns me up. It gets my blood boiling. This is why I believe Brian and his attorney should have pushed a little harder. However, a lot of you in the comment section made me feel better, saying, Brian is being an honorable man and the judge will see through Sarah's documentation. The respondent, me, is emphatically asking for this responsibility to utilize in her greatest capacities currently available, regardless of location differences. Sidebar, it isn't just a case of location differences. It's a case of you're incarcerated in close confinement. Sarah can't even get regular, quote unquote, visits like general inmates and general population, the Big Bay. She has to go through a extra high security process to receive visitations. She's in close confinement. She's considered a high risk inmate. When you're a high risk inmate, your visits, you're in a little box. You can't even sit in the general room. If you've ever been to a prison facility to visit, it's usually a big open room with like a lunch room with a bunch of tables and chairs, and everyone sits in the rooms together, families at each table, eating snacks from the vending machines and talking, not touching. However, high risk inmates are on the phone. You look through a glass. You have to maybe touch the glass like on the movies and pretend that you're touching each other and hold a phone and speak like that. Sarah presents her argument as if she's in Florida and Brian is in California, across the states, and they're just trying to figure out co-parenting. No, you are incarcerated and you actually put yourself there. You alienated yourself. Now we are going to get into the one portion of the closing that we didn't address in our previous episode, the amended parenting plan that Sarah suggests. Per the petitioner's amended parenting plan, quote, the father shall maintain open access and contact between the minor child and the mother, and to foster a feeling of affection between the mother and child, end quote. The child will be a legal adult in only 3 years, and respondent, me, questions why petitioner would attempt now to deplete the communication and comfort already established and the relationship between mother and son. This would not and is not in the best interest of the child. Oh, she gets me so upset every time she says that. What the respondent, me, is proposing will deepen the relationship and truly foster feelings of affection. 1 30-minute phone call per week will not achieve their proposed, quote, feeling of affection, nor, quote, the father ensuring 1 monthly visit. If football games don't take priority, he stated in trial. Oh. In continued elevation of the relationship with her son and his best interest, and in accordance with Perez versus Perez, and she lists the case, stating restriction on parenting time must serve the child's best interest, not the parent's convenience or preference. Respondent, me, requests this honorable court to order. A. Respondent to be included in all aspects, including major decisions, unless emergency. She's so gracious, our Saint Sarah. Proposed vacations, appointments, meetings, everything pertaining to her son's life, so she is aware what his status is overall and continually, futuristically. Petitioner to communicate and cooperate properly and regularly with respondent via telephone and tablet messages. Sidebar, she was very upset about Brian. How he stated in court that he didn't care about her frivolous text messages and calls and tablet messages. And how is she going to try to throw the jab in there about football? Hey, she's so jealous that he has his freedom to smoke cigarettes and drink liquor and order Uber and watch football. Okay, where were we? Petitioner to communicate. B. Regular open communication and telephone calls between mother and son, unanswered upon child's availability and desire. Unanswered upon child's availability and desire. So she's saying that she's going to leave it up to the child to answer or his availability. Okay, kind of fair. C. Regular open communication. You guys let me know if that's what she was saying. I'll read that again. B. Regular open communication and telephone calls between mother and son, answered upon child's availability and desire. C. Regular open communication between mother and son in tablet messages, with credits to utilize features to send pictures and as an alternative to telephone calls. D. In-person visits 1 to 2 times per month with maximum allowable time permitted by facility. 1 to 2 times per month. So every 2 weeks, you want them to take a 2-hour drive to stand in a line and wait for you to visit you for 30 minutes. They have to go through being physically searched by police officers. Little man will have to be searched. He'll have to adhere to the prison rules, and if he breaks them, he could get in trouble. Perhaps he leaves a little bottle opener keychain in his pocket and he goes into the facility to visit his mother. He could get in trouble for that. She's just, Again, she's presenting as if they are co-parenting in 2 different states and they're talking about going to an amusement park. This is a prison. D. In-person visits 1 to 2 times per month with maximum allowable time permitted by the facility. E. petitioner to complete a co-parenting class and attend counseling of his choice focused on parental alienation and communication strategies to promote a positive future as parents to their son and in his best interest. Oh, she is really, really milking it with this ChatGPT closing argument. Lastly, the respondent, me, wishes to address the petitioner's request for attorney fees and for the fees to be retroactively offset against his alimony arrears. And this is where it gets sticky. The respondent, me, respectfully requests that this court deny the petitioner's motion for attorney's fees under Rosen v. Rosen. The court must consider not only the parties' relative financial resources, so she's saying since she's broke, the courts should consider that, and not consider the fact that she is the reason this case has been continued, but also the scope and history of litigation, including whether one party's actions unnecessarily prolonged or complicated proceedings. Sidebar, she's blowing the dog whistle. She's trying to blame Brian for this whole case being continued. If he would have, a lot of this could have been avoided, Your Honor, if the petitioner would have just answered his phone. Here, the petitioner has willfully failed to comply with prior court-ordered obligations and has initiated this action despite being in contempt of court. So she's now stating that Brian is in contempt, even though the judge has told her, ma'am, leave that alone. As held in Kanakaris versus Kanakaris, and she lists the statute, fee awards are intended to ensure equality between parties, not to reward a party acting in bad faith, such as myself. I added that in there, sorry. The respondent additionally asks this court to strike or dismiss the petitioner's request as nothing more than another improper attempt to evade his obligation to pay long-standing alimony arrears. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you. I'm doing my best. Teresa Bell, 1973, shout out to Teresa, love you, says, that case is from Indiana and for all we know isn't even current or it doesn't apply for Florida. And the storage unit, ... I hope Brian gets credit for that. Tuvaluntis says, all right, I'll give you some general law knowledge on how binding precedent works. Shout out to my lawyer people and everybody from Florida. Shout out to you guys. A state court is only bound by case law from its own state or from relevant United States Supreme Court's precedent in areas where the U.S. Constitution governs, i.e., decisions involving the Fourth Amendment. Sarah is citing to case law from other states. That means it is not binding in Florida. A Florida judge can ignore an appellate decision from Indiana. This is particularly true if Florida law is different and there is relevant Florida case law that applies. So Brian's attorneys didn't need to know at least one of the cases she cited in support of her arguments. Shout out to Pinky, Lady Nemesis, Teresa, Helen, someone, Bossy Tuba, LZ, NK Did It, Pretend Judge. So many of you were in the comment section saying that Sarah was citing useless case law. Are you saying that Sarah in her ChatGPT closing just threw a bunch of stuff at the walls to see what would stick? And she's expecting Judge Jackson to fall for it? I saw a comment from one of you that said, I hope this closing angers Judge Jackson. I can't wait for her closing. Shout out to you. Same here. The respondent's mind, heart, soul, and overall being, which lives for her son, sidebar, I hope you know that means a lot to me. I put that on my son's life. Nobody laid a hand on anybody. That's on my son. With every fiber of my being, still computes love, understanding, compassion, knowledge, wisdom, goodness to provide to her son's life, no matter where she is. She desperately wants to be included. Invest in the oppressed, inclusion, and has not been since her incarceration. Maybe like a lot of incarcerated inmates. She presents as if she's the first parent that's an inmate simultaneously. She desperately wants to be included and has not been since her incarceration, where withholding of such I'm so sorry. Sometimes it's just it's ludicrous reading what Sarah, she really thinks this. She desperately wants to be included and has not been since her incarceration, where withholding of such redeeming qualities to their son from the respondent, me, have been due to the petitioner's ongoing decision to alienate her. Our Saint Sarah. Shout out to Barbara King. Hey Barbara. Christopher Boyer. Hey Chris, hope you are enjoying a cold one after work. Sharon Touch. Lisa Cruiser, Grampy1, Mandy, Lisa, Carolina, Katrina, Christina. Yesterday, I just couldn't get my ducks in a row. My feathers were ruffled. After reading the closing, I'm not sure what I expected from Sarah. Nonetheless, when I went over her actual proposed parenting plan, 1 to 2 times per month, and the 30-minute phone call is out. She wants unlimited text and credits for the multitudinous amounts of features on the phone. My question is, can't she just pay for this stuff herself? Why is she trying to put Brian in a contract to pay for her calls and multitudinous amounts of features forever? She can just pay for this stuff herself, right? Instead, she's trying to lock Brian in legally to forever be responsible for her communication and phone calls with her son. And that it's not right. In my opinion, and a lot of your opinions in the comment section, she's using this as a way to keep a hold on Brian, to keep control over him. She even mentions that her son will be an adult in 3 years. Knowing he'll be an adult soon, somehow she glosses over the fact that she left his life when he was about 9 years old. She alienated herself. In her twisted reality, she blames his dad. I'm sure that's what their conversations are about when she has him sneak off in the dark corner and talk where his dad can't hear. She blames his dad for her lack of a relationship with him. I hope little man doesn't fall for her trick and have resentment towards his dad and think that his dad is actually the one not fostering a relationship between he and his mother. Isn't that rich? She's twisted the whole story. Like she did with George. She made him out to be the villain. Everyone is a villain in her story. Soon, I'm afraid she'll turn her twisted story tale on little man. A lot of you say that George was kind of a buffer for little man when he was there. If it was just Sarah and little man alone, she would have probably been maintaining and focusing him as well. Oh, Saint Sarah, in my opinion, she's the danger to everyone she encounters. Furthermore, the petitioner has alleged that the respondent, me, is the party who has, quote, caused chaos and delayed these proceedings. Respectfully, this assertion is contradicted by the record. Prioristically, we deduced that Sarah knelt down on a glass, and that's where the whole crunch theory came from. She cut herself kneeling down on a glass and continues to blame George. She'll take that to the grave, I believe, blaming him for the crunch. Look at her describing it. Have you heard Sarah describe her first ever encounter meeting George? The first date? Faux black eyes and lies. It was a good day.
And you said you eventually stopped doing it because she got a new attorney and you just felt like the case was dragging on. Can you expound on that? What was your frustration there?
Because I didn't see an end in sight. I wanted, because we had already gotten this thing going. The judge wanted to wait for the trial to end before we could do anything with all of this. And it seemed as though she was just dragging things on almost on purpose, just so this wouldn't happen.
Okay. Now, during this time period, you had to hire private attorneys, is that right?
Correct.
And I'm not your first attorney, is that correct?
No.
Okay.
She stopped practicing and recommended me use them.
Okay. And do you know how much you paid to your first attorney to file the initial modification proceeding?
Well, she didn't fit. You filed the initial one, I think. You didn't?
No.
Did she do it when you?
Well, actually, maybe.
Hold up.
All right, we can't have a conversation like this.
I'm sorry.
Let me
sorry. No, I believe you did.
Let me rephrase the
Okay.
question. Let me rephrase the question. How much did you, the first attorney that you hired to pursue the modification case, how much did you pay her? Do you remember?
I do not remember. She did write up an entire thing to change it because I was going to be submitting that.
Sir, answer the question. How much did you pay the attorney?
I don't know. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Question.
I'm sorry.
Okay. And during the time period that that Miss Boone was incarcerated, you were still giving her some funds, paying for her mini storage. Were you also paying for 100% of the expenses of?
Yes.
Okay. And was there any time since her incarceration that Miss Boone gave you any money to help out with?
No.
Did she direct any family members to give you any money to help out with? Okay. And tell me a little bit about, well, let me strike that. Okay, so let's go back to attorney's fees. Do you know how much approximately you have spent in attorney's fees for my representation?
I think around 14,000.
Okay. This time, Your Honor, I would like to submit what has been marked for identification purposes as Petitioner's Exhibit F. It is a summary of Mr. Boone's attorney's fees he's paid to our firm.
You offering that into evidence?
Yes, I just want to see if Ms. Boone has any objection.
Ms. Boone, do you have any objections to what was pre-marked as Petitioner's Exhibit F?
No, Your Honor. The weather was beautiful outside. I'm the one that had him go inside so we can do puzzles and painting and listen to music or whatever else he wants to do. So then he starts doing whatever it is we're doing together in the living room.
Brian lets Sarah know in open court that he did not care about her schedule, her frivolous text messages and calls, and I think she wants to punish him. Hey, she's so jealous that he has his freedom to smoke cigarettes and drink liquor and order Uber and watch football. Okay, where were we? Petitioner to communicate. B, regular open communication and telephone calls between mother and son, unanswered upon child's availability and desire. Unanswered upon child's availability and desire. So she's saying that she's going to leave it up to the child to answer or his availability. Okay, kind of fair. C, regular open communication. You guys let me know if that's what she was saying. I'll read that again. B, regular open communication and telephone calls between mother and son. answered upon child's availability and desire. C. Regular open communication between mother and son in tablet messages, with credits to utilize features to send pictures and as an alternative to telephone calls. D. In-person visits 1 to 2 times per month with maximum allowable time permitted by facility. 1 to 2 times per month. So every 2 weeks, you want them to take a 2-hour drive to stand in a line and wait for you to visit you for 30 minutes? In case you missed it, we're going over the additional 4 pages, the parenting plan for Sarah. Per the petitioner's amended parenting plan, quote, the father shall maintain open access and contact between the minor child and the mother to foster a feeling of affection between the minor child and mother, end quote. The child will be a legal adult in only 3 years, and respondent me questions why petitioner would attempt now to deplete the communication and comfort already established and the relationship between mother and son. This would not and is not in the best interest of the child. What the respondent, me, is proposing will deepen the relationship and truly foster feelings of affection. Translation, then I'll really be in control of things. 1 30-minute phone call per week will not achieve their proposed, quote, feeling of affection, nor the father ensuring 1 monthly visit if football games don't take priority, he stated in trial. We watched that footage of Brian casually explaining that him and Little Man may go to the season tickets. They have season tickets. However, guys do that, you know. Shout out to all the guys watching Sunday and Monday Night Football. Can you imagine going to a prison facility instead of going to watch your favorite team play football on a Sunday? Oh, Sarah. In continued elevation of the relationship with her son and in his best interest and in accordance with Perez v. Perez, stating restriction on parenting time must serve the child's best interest. Sidebar, I believe restricting a child going to prison is in his best interest. Not the parent's convenience or preference, respondent me request this honorable court to order. Here we go. We're going to relist her ABCs. A. Respondent me to be included in all aspects, including major decisions, unless emergency. Sidebar, during court, Brian's attorney asked Sarah if there was an emergency, would Brian be able to reach you? And she pretty much had to admit no. So she's being gracious to say, unless it's an emergency, he can go ahead and make the decision on his own. Proposed vacations, appointments, meetings, everything pertaining to her son's life. So she is aware what his status is overall and continually. Now that I read this again. So Sarah, say Little Man has a meeting at his STEM program in school, and Sarah wants to be included. Inclusion. She wants to be included in everything. He has a toothache. He needs to go to the dentist. He might need to switch to a new dentist. She wants to be involved. Although she's not going to drive him there, she's not going to meet the dentist, she isn't going to participate in paying for the work. She's just going to make a decision, yay or nay, in her mind. I say in her mind, this is all temporary for Sarah. Mind you, she gets called everything but a white woman, and Kim is not very nice. She does have her upcoming successful appeal. I'm sure she's telling Little Man, this is just temporary. I'll be home soon, so I need to be involved for when I get home so we can still have a bond. Is that called gaslighting? Or just selling him a dream. All right, hold on. Where were we? Now we are getting into the communication portion of it. Petitioner to, this is still part of A. Petitioner to communicate and cooperate properly and regularly with respondent via telephone and tablet messages to have any questions answered or concerns addressed about her son, or to update petitioner about changes in her life they both need to be aware of. Hold on, sidebar. I'm so glad that I'm rereading this again. What? I'm sorry, I'm frazzled. Let me relax and read this again. Sarah gets me so frazzled. Petitioner to communicate and cooperate properly and regularly with respondent, me, via telephone and tablet messages to have any questions answered or concerns addressed about her son, or to update petitioner about changes in her life they both need to be aware of. I thought Brian told her in open court he did not care. He didn't care to know anything about her life, her job, her little schedule, her hymnals, her delicious delights. Didn't he tell her in open court? Because I don't care. Now she wants the judge to order he communicate and cooperate properly and regularly about changes in her life they both need to be made aware of. Leave a comment below if you can think of anything Brian Boone needs to be aware of as far as Sarah's new life as a pro se inmate? No, a LWOP inmate. B. Regular open communication and telephone calls between mother and son, answered upon child's availability and desire. Night night, termite. But she doesn't want him to attend his football games with his dad so that he can hang around waiting for a 30-minute phone call or hang out at the prison. C. Regular open communication between mother and son in tablet messages with credits to utilize features to send pictures and as an alternative to telephone calls. We know there's a multitudinous amount of features on the prison calls, the app, I believe. However, why can't Sarah pay for the calls herself? I've said this multiple times. Why is she trying to commit Brian to a lifetime of prison calls with unlimited credits that she can utilize? Why can't she just pay for it herself and say, Your Honor, I just want them to answer the phone. I'm going to call my son a couple times a week and I'll pay for the calls. She has fans around the world. Sidebar, don't forget to put your stars in your maps. Our map is so full. Yay! You guys would be so proud. Sarah would be so jaded. Her sisters and flying donkeys are helping her with her ChatGPT closing, helping her file documents apparently. They're buying vinyls from Australia. Why can't they just give her 13 cents for a few phone calls? Futuristically. D. In-person visits 1 to 2 times per month with maximum allowable time permitted by the facility. This is a tricky one, leaving it up to the facility. I'm not sure if Sarah's aware or if anyone watches prison documentaries or 60 Days In, shows like that. Leave a comment below. You could get to the prison for a visit and the prison can get shut down for a riot. The prison can get shut down for safety reasons and you'll be turned away. You can be inside of the prison and there could be a literal riot or a lockdown. They'll lock it down and sirens will go off and the lights will start blaring and the doors will start locking. And if you're in there, you're locked down too. This is what little man will be subjected to versus going to hang out with his dad and watching football. Now that I think of it, Sarah doesn't only want to take away his extracurricular activities. He's a hardworking student, full-time student in his prime. She wants to take away his father's ability to financially provide for him. Wow. Let's play Sarah's advocate. If you didn't know Sarah and we were looking through this of a lens, just non-biased, we didn't know either of these people, from both of their arguments, who would you choose? What would you decide? Who would you lean towards? The first time, sidebar, the first time I read this, I almost fell off of my seat. Petitioner to complete a co-parenting class and attend counseling of his choice. How generous. Focused on parental alienation and communication strategies to promote a positive future as parents to their son and in his best interest. Now, I may have been worried about a few things in this ChatGPT closing, but this isn't one of them. I absolutely think Judge Jackson will wipe the floor with this portion of the closing, and I hope she wipes something else with the rest of her closing and flush it down the toilet where it belongs. Let's read that again. Petitioner to complete a co-parenting class and attend counseling of his choice focused on parental alienation and communication strategies to promote a positive future as parents to their son and in his best interest. Lastly, the respondent, me, wishes to address the petitioner's request for attorney fees and for the fees to be retroactively offset against his alimony arrears. The respondent, me, respectfully requests that this court deny the petitioner's motion for attorney's fees under Rosen v. Rosen. Sidebar, has anyone looked that up? The court must consider not only the parties' relative financial resources, but also the scope and history of. I'm going to pause there. We went over that portion, the attorney's fees, earlier in the video. We can look over it again a little later. Right now, I just wanted to focus on Sarah's proposed parenting plan. What are you guys thinking? What's crazy to me is Brian has taken the biggest hit financially for Sarah's crime, for her criminal crime. He's taken the largest loss out of everyone. He's become a single dad. He's had to relocate several times, obtain legal counsel. And Sarah had the nerve to say, getting an attorney is a choice. Respondent, me, I didn't have an attorney. Petitioner had the option to get an attorney. So that's on him. That's on you. And another thing that bothered me is that since Brian didn't come in with like an itemized list showing what he did, he just came in with clean hands and said, hey, I did this with the storage. I took care of this. I was the only one she had. And I took care of it for her. Now she's twisting that and saying, well, he doesn't have proof of it, so it doesn't exist. And those were gifts. How crass. As far as the attorney's fees, she's basically saying that's on him. And to continue, the history of litigation, including whether one party's actions unnecessarily prolonged or complicated proceedings. Here, the petitioner has willfully failed to comply with prior court-ordered obligations and has initiated this action despite being in contempt of court. He isn't in contempt of court. She wants him to be in contempt. She's vying for it. As held in, and she lists the statute, fee awards are intended to ensure equality between parties, not to reward a party acting in bad faith with unclean hands. The respondent additionally asks this court to strike or dismiss the petitioner's request as nothing more than another improper attempt to evade his obligation to pay long-standing alimony arrears. Even though the judge she doesn't know either of these people. She was once a foster child herself in the same situation. I'm sure she can see that Brian is a stand-up, honorable guy. He's a good dad. He's trying. He is putting his best foot forward, prioristically, even when Sarah was free. I just hope she looks at those body cam videos. But I do have faith that she can feel the energy and just know that Brian is, not what Sarah is proclaiming. She says in the letters, he isn't what he seems to be. He's not what you guys think he is, presenting as if he's this monster. We know who the monster is, though.
I do not feel that it is right for me to have a 30-minute phone call with my son.
Oh, look, Sarah's watching our show, Tip of the Tip. I want to thank you all for hanging out, too. We are still docket watching for Judge Jackson's response. Hopefully we'll get that by 10/10 for a birthday gift. Let's pillage a little more. Alimony, attorney's fees, and parenting plan. Those were the 3 things to focus on. Judge Jackson continually reminded Sarah of, here we go, ABC, Sarah's solution. A, find the petitioner in civil contempt for violating the court-ordered payments he was ordered to pay while he was employed, and order the petitioner to pay $26,000 in alimony and $2,314 in interest payable under Florida law. So the interest would go to Sarah. B, deny the petitioner's request that he, quote, calls even that imputes an income to the respondent for child support. Read that again. Deny the petitioner's request that he, quote, calls even that imputes an income to the respondent for child support. C, deny the petitioner's proposed parenting plan and grant the respondent's, me, in place of. Respectfully submitted on the 2nd day of September, Sarah K. Boone. She blows a little smoke up Judge Jackson's behind and says, and in all gratitude of this honorable court's patience. Pro se respondent. Furthermore, the petitioner has alleged that the respondent is the party who caused chaos and delayed these proceedings. Respectfully, this assertion is contradicted by the record. I really hope Brian gets credit for what he gave to Sarah. His money is tied up in the bank accounts. He's spending money, just throwing money into the furnace, pretty much, just burning money because of Sarah, on top of what she wants in addition. The respondent firmly rejects the petitioner's baseless allegations that she is the cause of delay. Moreover, the choice to retain private counsel is just that, a choice. This is a civil matter, and no party is compelled to hire an attorney. Thus, the petitioner's voluntary decision to incur legal fees should not be shifted onto the respondent, me, particularly when he is already delinquent in meeting his court-ordered support obligations. To award fees in this context would effectively reward the petitioner for noncompliance and penalize the respondent, an outcome that is wholly inconsistent with principles of equity and fairness under Florida law. The respondent, me, wishes to remind the court that the petitioner alleges to have paid for a storage unit for 2 years, but has failed to provide any evidence of this. Therefore, his request to have this deducted from any monetary relief I may be awarded should be dismissed. Although we saw earlier Sarah in open court didn't dispute when Brian said she had nobody else. She didn't have any family. There was no one else to do it, so I did it for her. I moved everything. She didn't dispute it. I hope Judge Jackson remembers that.
I do not feel that it is right for me to have a 30-minute phone call with my son. When I'm trying to do everything that I can to be in his life in every way, shape, and form that I possibly can, from having people in Australia purchase him a record. Anything that I can possibly do to go out of my way to do, I've been doing for him. So he remembers and knows that I am in his life and I am his mother. And I am doing everything I possibly can to stay that way, regardless of the petitioner and his counsel's attempts to deter me from being part of that. I try to communicate with the petitioner in regards to my son. I've been continuously excluded. There is no communication. I don't know what else it is that I can possibly do that I haven't tried to already. And a lot of these too, I would like to remind everyone, these could have been solidified where they have had a meeting of attorneys and unrepresented parties meeting. A lot of this could have been had and resolved and narrowed if we were going to have that meeting in regards to all of this. Nonetheless, if the petitioner would have answered a phone call or a comment message, it's not fair to me that just because I'm here, it doesn't justify how I've been treated and excluded with this. I would like to continue to have the regular phone calls and interaction with my son, which I have been doing, and all of a sudden now is being tried to be taken away from me out of spite, as opposed to my son and his growth and him moving properly and appropriately and lovingly forward with his mother. And I would very much like, please, after 9 months of asking for my son to please come see me, which is only 50 minutes away, which I think will change both of our lives with finally being able to see.
I want to ask you a few questions regarding your request for sole parental responsibility. First off, since February of 2020, has Miss Boone had any overnight contact with your son?
No.
Okay. Has she been involved in any major decision related to your son since February of 2020?
No.
Okay. Practically speaking, if there was a major decision that needed to be decided upon, how would you go about having, if Miss Boone did have shared parental responsibility and was equally, had equal power to make decisions related to your son, practically speaking, how would you even do that if she's in federal or in prison?
No idea. I have no way of contacting her. It'd be sitting around and waiting for her to call or something at some point.
Okay. And has Miss Boone had telephonic contact with your son since she was incarcerated?
Yes.
Okay. Does she have frequent telephone communication with your son?
Off and on. There are weeks when there are tons of phone calls and then weeks where there's none. It's just kind of, I don't know.
And when she is talking to your son, how does that go? How does it go? Is it good? Is it
coin flip? Sometimes he's very upset afterwards at things she had said to him, and sometimes she's in a great mood and they have a great conversation. It's very, you never know what's going to happen.
I just want to tell Sarah Boone that I don't hate her for what she did. My son is not here no more. I was blessed. She ain't gonna be blessed like me because I have my son. I raised him. I have his children, my granddaughter, my grandson, and she don't gonna be able to have that. And I did. I raised him. He wasn't perfect, but he was a good son. Thank you.
It just boils my blood to watch her and her helmet sit there emotionless. Remember at the crime scene when Sarah told Chelsea, his sister, George had to pull her off of me like the sister beat Sarah up? Well, that's her right there next to Mama Torres, and she had some very, very touching words during the sentencing, and I wanted to share it with you guys.
Sarah has caused a lifetime of pain, a lifetime of horrible images, a lifetime of hearing my brother George plead for his life. This is just this moment for all of you. For me and my family, it's forever. such a simple thing as using a suitcase is so triggering. I try not to close it all the way. I leave at least like 2 or 3 inches for the zipper. And it might sound crazy, but it just helps me. She really has flipped my family's life upside down. And I just hope that we can truly get justice for my brother. And I just want to tell the team thank you so much for everything they did. Thank you.
Thank you. State anything further?
No, Your Honor.
Why do you not care?
About you.
Question, ma'am.
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
We're way off target here. Let's move on to something else. If you're done, you're done.
Your Honor, thank you. Forgive me. Have you at all upheld any of the other items in the active parenting plan to date since of my incarceration?
For instance?
I'm going to object as to overbroad and...
Sustained. Ma'am, you have to ask a different question.
Communication. Between parents, all communications regarding a child shall be between the parents.
Paula Nichols, 5961. Hey, Paula. Paula says, I really love this community. The Sarah people are a fun bunch. The best part is that not only do our favorite creators interact with each other, but reading the comments is always just as fun. I love recognizing the other subscribers. I seem to always enjoy. Their style and humor are top notch. Thanks for the short. It was a great comment. Paula's referring to our short section where I often highlight comments. I get some great comments. You guys are top tier. I really love this community as well. The creators, I love the creators. Shout out to my email crew. Everyone that emails me information, big shout out to you. Tanika says, if Sarah is getting alimony arrears from 2020 to 2022, she has the financial means to pay child support. You guys in the comments are telling me in Florida, inmates are still responsible for child support. Sarah was citing case law from another state that didn't even hold any bearing on her case. Mel 71875 says, yes, hey Mel, yes, I want to see the envelope postmark. She is a convicted perpetrator of family violence, so she should not get anything involving decisions about the child. She absolutely can be charged with child support. Okay, which I believe then if she ever gets any money, then it would automatically go to Brian. I hope and pray that George's family sues Sarah in civil court so that if she ever gets any money, they will get it first. I agree, Mel. However, George's family said they didn't want anything from Sarah. Hey, Annie. Annie Hills 3580 says, Brian owes nothing further to her. After her appeal proves fruitless, she will have nothing and nobody to complain to. I doubt 10 years in solitary confinement would make her appreciate other humans. This one will lie to God on her judgment day. Tony touches. Hey, Tony. Tony says, in one of her interviews with police, she stated her concerns at the moment were, in this order, the dogs, then the child. Let's not be shocked at her continued disregard for her son. Tony, you are absolutely right. I'm not sure why I was upset or touched by her closing that She didn't even mention anything Brian did for her prioristically. And excuse me, it touched me that Brian emptied out the townhome, arranged for George's family to get his belongings, put her stuff in storage, kept it safe. It touched me that he did that as a man, as a human, as a former husband, as a father, to show his son integrity. And she's now just saying, you don't have a receipt, which shows her character and as a parent in raising her son. Know that. If you made it this far, you know I appreciate you, and I will see you on the next episode. Bye. It's so hard to say goodbye. If you made it this far, don't forget, leave where you're watching from and what time it is. See you on the next episode. And thank you so much, Your Honor. Please, thank you.